Hello and welcome back to Continental Club Extra, where we are talking all things Group G, which contains Switzerland, Cameroon, and tonight's clash between Serbia and Brazil, which ended with Brazil coming out on top in a 2-0 victory, bringing the Samba vibes eventually in that second half. It was great to see. We will be discussing the ramifications in that group, but we'll be diving into Brazil's performance in particular. McCubs,
yes.
What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was an interesting one, wasn't it? We were a little bit disappointed in the first half, as I imagine many of you at home would have been as well. I don't think Brazil were particularly bad in the first half, but Serbia just dealt with them really well. And, Henry will get onto Serbia's performance in a bit, but I felt like they were slightly physically outmatched by Serbia, who are a big team and very well organised. Rafinha in particular had a bit of a, I wouldn't say a shocker, but a disappointing first half. Got into great positions, but really lacked end product. Let off that terrible shot after a really good 1-2 with Lucas Paqueta. Vinicius Jr., I think, was probably their most, their best outlet in that first half. I think he gave Milenkovic, plenty to think about. Milenkovic, I think, dealt with him pretty well. Vinny ended up getting, more joy in the second half. He ended the game with 4 shots and 4 key passes, which I think were both game highs. So, Vinicius Jr., I think, is already looking well up for this tournament. But yeah, from that first half, Brazil only had 4 shots. Serbia managed 1. Again, I thought they were a bit disappointing going forward. But they just didn't look fully in gear, Brazil. Neymar wasn't particularly influential. Vinicius was the only forward who really seemed to have any intent in the final third. Neymar and Rafinha didn't even create a chance between them. But credit to the manager Chiche, because he's obviously been with this Brazil side for a number of years. He knows them inside out. He's got them playing some of the best football in the international game. He had full faith in them. It's not like, with Portugal, as we saw earlier, it only really started to look like a really exciting attacking unit after they brought Rafa Leao on late in the game, and it kind of took tactical changes on both sides for that game to really open up. In this match, none of that really happened. It was just patience from Brazil, and eventually, especially around the 60-minute mark, Serbia really fell off in the game. It felt like their fitness levels compared to Brazil's just weren't quite matching up. Thought the Brazil their press in the middle of the park finally got to them, forced a few errors at the back. They ended the game with 18 shots to Serbia's 3 in that second half. The game ended 2.5 to 0.2 in their favour on XG, which, considering that Brazil could hardly hit the target in the first half, just goes to show how that patience paid off.
Yeah.
You had Danilo and Casemiro hitting the woodwork. Serbia's only real threat came from a corner, and Danilo and Marquinhos dealt with that pretty easily. Richarlison, finally coming into the game in that second half. And I mean, this is the thing, we were saying in the first half, what is Richarlison's function? Because obviously he is an important player in this Brazil side. Chiche always plays him. He's always, in the last 6 months, a lot has been said about his importance to this Brazil side. But in that first half, you didn't necessarily see that because he just wasn't involved. He only had 12 touches in the entire game. And out of that, he got 2 goals from 3 shots. The first, great work from Neymar. Mazy run through the defence in the box, lays it off to Vinicius, who fires off a decent shot, and then Richarlison reacts well, I think, against, I think it was Pavlovic, who was coming in to clear it there. And then the second one, I mean, come on. Let's have a little round of applause for that, because
it was a hell of a strike.
I mean, an amazing cross from Vinny as well with his the outside of his boots. But Richarlison to take that touch, a capoeira overhead kick.
Oh,
nice.
I mean, I don't know. It's tough. Maybe the goal of the tournament so far. Definitely an all-time, World Cup goal. We'll be seeing that on compilations for years to come. I think his importance to this side is going to become more evident, I think, as the tournament goes on. I think, as the game went on, as the Serbia defence started to become more vulnerable, he was the one occupying the spaces. He was the one kind of opening up space for Vinicius, who I think was the most dangerous attacker. He's now got 19 goals in 39 games for Brazil, and he does it on the biggest stage as well, doesn't he? He scored the final goal of the 2019 Copa America final against Peru. He got a hat-trick against Germany at the 2020 Olympics, finished that tournament with 5 goals. So this could be the first 2 of many we see from Richarlison at this tournament. It'll be exciting to see how he develops in this group stage. And then I think the final thing to say about Brazil is just their depth. Chiche didn't have to make any substitutions until that second goal went in, but then he brought on Jesus, Martinelli, Rodrigo and Antony, and then they looked even more dangerous in those final 10 minutes. It probably should have been 3 or 4 in the end, I think, given just how dangerous Brazil looked. And I think this is where their kind of status as favourites, rings true, I think, because if they do break down a defence, if they do go a goal or 2 up, it's hard to see how teams come back, because they can just bring on an entirely new attack of top quality forwards who are all fully recharged and ready to go. So yeah, it's not a 6 or 7-0 that we've seen from Spain, I guess France 4-1 against Australia, England against Iran. It's not a big scoreline like that, but there's something about this Brazil team that I think does strike fear into the others. And I think it is that, seeing Martinelli just go on a 50-yard run before probably what should have really set up a goal there, on 80 minutes, and to think that he might not even feature that much this tournament, it is quite a frightening prospect.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of those forward players that started from the off as well, you'd expect to get better as well.
Yeah.
It felt like Rafinha, although you wouldn't have heard it, never really recovered from Martin Keown calling him a Rafinho in the opening minute. Which was a bizarre moment. Antony came on, had a good impact as well off the bench, but it is Richarlison that will go home and have all the plaudits and all the papers writing about him, because, as they like to say on Twitter, he's just got that dog in him. Seriously, he is relentless in his press, and he's had a difficult season, I think, at Spurs. Not in terms of his performances, but his injuries have picked up. He's not maybe had the goal return he'd expect to in the Premier League at least. Had a good goal, a couple of goals actually against Marseille in the Champions League, but now in his World Cup debut, like we saw with Bukayo Saka, like we saw with Gavi, really stepping up to the big occasion. But that's enough on Brazil for now, Henry. Let's talk Serbia. Many people's dark horses going into this tournament, for good reason. Do you think there was maybe some selection issues that went against them on this occasion? What do you think went wrong for them?
Listen, it's always going to be hard to judge Serbia when their opening game is against Brazil, as we've gone into it. Some serious talent. And it's funny enough, they met 4 years ago, lost 2-0, I believe, there and then. But, there was a lot of optimism, as you point out, going into this World Cup. This is a completely new Serbia side in many respects. And Dragan Stojkovic, what a great manager, what a legendary player. They'd only lost 3 times in 21 games under him going into the tournament. They had Mitrovic scored something like 36 goals for club and country in 2022 alone. So reasons to be really optimistic. But yeah, you're right. I think they were a bit hindered in their selection issues. We saw that Kostic wasn't fit enough to even be in the starting pitch. Because this is the great shame. I'd have loved to have seen a full-strength Serbia really go at this match. Because Mladenovic, who was deputised for Kostic, wasn't really good enough. But, they did give it a good go. And I thought in the first half, they held their shape pretty well. As you said, limited Brazil. It's certainly in their chance creation. I think they had 41% possession, which isn't too bad against a team like Brazil who do keep the ball a lot. And I thought Lukic in the middle was brilliant at kind of helping bypass that press. He would sort of be the one that would link the defence and the midfield and try and get it up to the forward line. I thought Lukic did really well. But yeah, as you kind of touched upon, McCubs, in the second half it really did sort of wear on a little bit, and it wasn't helped by the fact their attack didn't really purr in any respects. I don't like,
Your boy Mitro.
I love Mitrovic, Fulham have had a good showing at this World Cup so far, but yeah, Mitrovic had a pretty bad game. In fairness to him, he hasn't played 90 minutes.
He didn't look fully fit.
Yeah, he hasn't played 90 minutes in about 4 weeks. He looked unfit, as you said. I don't think the heat probably helps, but he has 0 shots in the whole game. He didn't win in a single aerial duel out of 4, which
that's not like
that's what he has to. He has to win. He has to be battling against Marquinhos or Thiago Silva, who I thought defended brilliantly against him. It must be said. There was one moment in the first half where they got a cross in where it looked like Mitrovic was going to attack, and you saw him peel off the back of the defender, but I think they held up well against him. But yeah, he had a difficult time. Even Vlahovic, when he got substituted on, didn't really make a difference at all. 0 shots, misplaced 3 of his 6 passes, not really good enough. A lot of sort of clanky touches there. And yeah, really, I mean, it's when you're looking at Serbia and you're saying the best player on the pitch was their goalkeeper, Vanja Milinkovic-Savic. Somehow the younger brother of Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, despite looking like a bit of an enforcer.
Hey, let's not have any criticisms on that.
Okay,
the best look a bit older than they are.
I take that back. But yeah, I thought he had a really good game. 6 saves, 3 in the box. He was very active. Really was out quick to stop Vinicius Junior, where it looked like Vinny Junior was through at the start, and made some great saves in the second half too. And it was unlucky that save from Vinny Junior went to Richarlison's feet for the tapping, because then you see the energy really sap from Serbia. Suddenly they're in a position where they have to push forward, and that is the worst place to be against a team of about 11 dribblers who can just dominate you at any given moment. So yeah, it was tough for them. Shout out Milenkovic as well. 8 tackles, 3 clearances, 2 interceptions at the back. These are big numbers. I thought Pavlovic did an all right job in moments as well, trying to deal with all of that threat. But yeah, Serbia's tournament starts now, doesn't it? Serbia's tournament, they look ahead to the next 2 games. Massive clash. I mean, they have to beat, Cameroon, and the massive clash against Switzerland. Their tournament really starts now. And I think Stojkovic can take some positives from this match, and it's not a massive shock, is it? I mean, he joked at the start of the game that they would be finished if Brazil lined up with all 4 strikers, and sure enough they did. So yeah, I mean, there's sort of inevitability to it all, but yeah, they looked all right, and they'll go again, and I'm still confident that they're going to build into this tournament.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's easy to say with hindsight, but I am quite surprised that if Mitrovic wasn't fully fit, that they kept him on for the entirety of the game, I think, or at least until very late on. And maybe he'll play himself into some form and fitness. And they did the opposite with Kostic, never got onto the pitch, and he's probably Serbia's best player, definitely one of their most experienced players. Had a great year at Juventus after a slightly slow start. Last month or so he's been excellent. So as you say, I think they will grow into this tournament. That game against Switzerland's already going to have such an edge to it, because Granit Xhaka, of course, has that history as a man of Kosovan descent, of course. So it's going to be really, really interesting. And Shaqiri as well, of course. There's always a lot of bad blood between Serbia and Switzerland. But it's worth touching on what happened earlier in the day, actually. We saw Switzerland beat Cameroon 1-0 through that Breland Bolo goal, set up by Shaqiri, who otherwise had quite a quiet game. I think Vargas on the other side as well. It wasn't a vintage Switzerland display. I think Cameroon were very much the better side in the first half and then very much ran out of steam. And then you're looking at Switzerland, and I think they'll be very solid. They'll be difficult to beat. Jan Sommer's an excellent goalkeeper. Nico Elvedi, Manuel Akanji, and then in front, Freuler and Xhaka. That's a really solid base to work from. Do I see them troubling Brazil? Probably not. But I think they, have an option of maybe sneaking a win against Serbia. I think that'll be a very, very interesting game. Cameroon now have lost 8 successive World Cup games, but I think there are reasons to be cheerful there. Choupo-Moting very much got very tired towards the end of that second half, but his hold-up play in the first half was great. Buemo as well on the right wing was really, really lively in that first half as well. So if Rigobert's Song side can build on that momentum into their next games, I think it could get more interesting. Final thing to say though, McCubs, there is a bit of a worry about Neymar and his ankle. Tell us more.
Yeah, it didn't seem that significant at the time. But yeah, Neymar came off on around 80 minutes and seemed to have like some sort of knock. And then, seemed to be kind of in, not in the best of moods, head in his shirt. So instantly kind of reports in Brazil saying that he was crying and they were looking at his ankle. And apparently putting an ice pack on his ankle. So, yeah, a little bit concerning from a Neymar's perspective. Obviously, has history with injuries at World Cups, and this is probably his best chance of winning the tournament, isn't it? So yeah, a little bit concerning from a Brazil perspective. But we saw that with Harry Kane, ankle injury, ice packs, etc. After Iran, and he's all right at the moment. So. Brazil fans will be desperately hoping that it's a bit more of a Harry Kane situation, and don't know, I can't think of another example, but less of a Sadio Mane situation, I guess.
The beauty with Brazil is that if he is injured, because we saw him starting in central midfield against Paqueta and Casemiro, the beauty of their situation is if he does have problems, they can kind of move him out the side for a few games, bring in plenty of Fred, bring in Guimaraes, exactly, and they've still got plenty of balance and attacking threat in that side, so it's not really the greatest disaster in the world. I just think everyone wants this for Neymar, because he's been such an emblem and a figure of this Brazil side, and he's been so selfless and brilliant this year for PSG. We were joking before, this is probably the best year ever for him in terms of his image and sort of projection as a world-leading player. And so, yeah, it is slightly concerning, but I think they could afford to miss him for a game and would still comfortably get through this group, and then he can be raring to go for when the crunch matches really come in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Brazil are probably making it. They are making it through this group, aren't they? Barring some crazy disaster against Cameroon and Switzerland. But yeah, compared to like 2014 when his injury really was the nail in the coffin, and they had to start. Was it Fred and who was it up front against Germany? Like, this Brazil team has come a long way since then. And you're right, Henry. They've got so many options there, and Vinicius alone is just
he's a poster boy himself.
He's almost as he's basically where Neymar was. In 2013, 2014 time, he really is that good, and he was more influential than Neymar in this game. So, yeah, I wouldn't have any worries. The worry is that if it were to end his tournament, then Brazil in the quarters, semis, if they were to progress in the tournament, you would want Neymar on that side. I think morale-wise, you'd really want him there.
Yeah, absolutely. But luckily, they do have a lot of options. Guys, did this win against Serbia reaffirm your belief that Brazil are strong favourites for this World Cup? If not, why not? Let us know in the comments. If you've enjoyed this, go check out our shorts as well. We've been putting them on FD and EuroFootball Daily, shorter versions of these reviews. Go check out our content on Snapchat and TikTok as well, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.